Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be honest, the lighting is not going to be optimal in this video. I filmed it when it was, and there was no sound on the video. I have literally not a clue as to why that was the case, but it was. So we're back. Hopefully, my takes on all these books are just as good as they were the last time. Um, you won't know anyway. What are we actually talking about today? That is summer reads for morbid girls. Now, I've been seeing online, like kind of in like the bookish space, if you want to call it that, like summer ween picks, where people just recommend like, I don't know, horror books and thrillers and stuff to read in the summer. And that's not really what we're doing today. We're doing kind of like my version of that, which, like, I love a horror book or a thriller book sometimes, but these are books that are mostly lit fic, and then I have one like bonus book at the end that like kind of didn't really fit into the vibe, but I like wanted to include it anyway. These are like lit fic books that are by and about women or girls, and there's just something that's a little off or kind of like morbid about what's going on. So think like less thriller and more just kind of like unsettling lit fic. The first book that I do want to talk about today, though, is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I'm pretty sure I have talked about this book on this channel before. I love it. I read it for the first time about a year ago and it was perfect and I want to reread it and I think about it all the time. So yeah, Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This book is about an unnamed narrator. We'll call her Mrs. De Winter. She's this like awkward, kind of like gawky, like around 20-year-old girl. She meets this cool, mysterious older guy on in I think Monte Carlo and somewhere in the south of France or maybe Monaco. Um anyway, she meets him, he whisks her away. They get married and she goes back to Manderley, which is his estate. He's some sort of like lower nobility or just like I don't know. He has an estate and it has a name. So I don't know. So he brings her back to Manderley, which is this like beautiful scenic huge house that's like on the coast. It's very beautiful, but it's kind of haunted. Not really in a literal sense, but she feels haunted by the presence of his dead wife, Rebecca. Rebecca's presence in the house is like absolutely inescapable for like the new Mrs. De Winter. And people, like both like the servants and then just like the people in the town, are truly not afraid to talk about how great Rebecca was. Like, oh, she was so beautiful. Oh, she was the best at running this house. Oh, she was so charming. She was the perfect lady. Oh, and did we mention she's beautiful? And so that kind of makes the new Mrs. De Winter like kind of insecure. And that's kind of like the setup of this. I will not give you any more about this because it is thrilling, absolutely thrilling. I read the last like 250 pages, so like pretty much half of this, more than half of this book, like just like in one sitting. Like I sat down and I was just like, I couldn't put it down until I figured out what happened. And I hope that's the experience that you have with it too. Yeah. It was one of those classics where I was like, wait, that's the plot of. Yeah, basically, to just give a little hint, everything is not as it seems as first. And Rebecca's death, I don't know, maybe things happened there. Who's to say? Moving on to a more recent read that I know I haven't talked about on this channel yet, is The Feast by Margaret Kennedy. I just read this for the first time in the spring and I had a delightful time. Margaret Kennedy will be hearing from me again. I already have The Constant Nymph, like one of her most popular novels, like on my shelf. It is one that I'm really itching to read. It probably would have been on my summer TBR, but I didn't make one of those and I haven't read it yet. So I don't know. But back to the task at hand, The Feast by Margaret Kennedy. So What's this about? Why is it morbid? So this starts off where there's two priests and they're talking to each other about prepping for a funeral. It's a big one. It's like a group funeral. A lot of people are dead. And you cut back in time to like a week before these priests having the conversation, and you meet these people who are staying or working in this inn like on the coast. It's under this huge cliffside which will collapse and kill like half of them in just a week's time, but they don't know that. They're just at the inn, they're hanging out, they're on the coast, or they're working. This is definitely one of those books where I don't want to say it's no plot, just vibes, because I think there certainly is plot. I mean, you know, it's about a cliff falling on a bunch of people. Like that's how much more plot do you want? But it is one of those books where the premise is like a bunch of dysfunctional people all being forced to be in close proximity to each other and like chaos ensues. It is definitely like one of those books for like most of it, but it's this like beautiful summer seaside atmosphere. Again, a lot of dysfunction and people die. Yeah. And you do get to find out at the end like who makes it and who doesn't, and like why the people who were in the inn when this happened were there and why the ones who weren't. It's very satisfying. Very nice conclusion. But yeah, that is The Feast by Margaret Kennedy. Next, I want to talk about one that I liked. I thought it was okay. Um, it did not throw me nearly as much as some of the other books in this video, but I thought it fit into my little like self-created theme pretty well, and it was worth a mention. It wasn't terrible. It just like I don't know, for me it was kind of meh. But maybe it'll resonate with you. I don't know. We'll see. Um but anyway, enough yapping. That is Bitter Water Opera by Nicolette Polek. This book, I think I picked it up because one of the blurbs on the back said the writing reminded them of Leonora Carrington. And that's like a pretty high bar to set. And I think part of the reason why I just felt kind of meh about it is because it did not live up to the expectation that this would be like Leonora Carrington. So if you've never read any Leonora Carrington, which you should because I'm about to recommend a book by her next, like maybe you won't go in with that expectation and this will be great. So what is this about? This is about two women across time, Martha and Gia. Martha is this dancer from the kind of like mid 20th century. She finds this theater in like Death Valley, Nevada. She paints it. She dances there for many, many years. And then Gia is a more modern woman and she hates her life. So she decides that she's just going to kind of like just stop participating in it. A little bit less dramatically than like say like, you know, my year of rest and relaxation, but she's just like I'm done. I'm done. I'm not answering anyone's calls. I'm the so she learns about Martha, becomes kind of like obsessed with Martha and then starts seeing Martha. It's unclear whether or not like in the world of this story like Martha's ghost is supposed to like actually be there or if it is just Gia like seeing things. I would lean towards it's Gia seeing things, but I don't know. I think maybe you could make an argument either way. Like I wouldn't compare this to The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. I wouldn't do that, but I mean like that is a comparison you could draw, I guess. Like were the ghosts real or is she just, you know, not well? Who's to say? So anyway, she starts seeing Martha's ghost, or maybe Martha's there, or whatever, and she eventually goes and finds the theater that Martha painted and danced at. So that is that. It's a skinny little book, pretty short. Again, I thought it was okay. Maybe if you go in with the expectation that it's not going to be like Leonora Carrington, like maybe you will have a much better time with this. better than my like okay time. But yeah, that's that. And now to recommend an actual Leonora Carrington book. This book, out of all of the ones in the stack, I don't know how well it fits. Like the last one, I'm not sure that it was explicitly summer, but like they were in Death Valley, Nevada, so like it was warm. And similarly, this one, I don't remember if it was like actually summer, but like it takes place in Mexico and therefore is like warm for most of it. There's some coldness at the end. You have to read the book to you just gotta read the book to know how the coldness like really factors in. But I love this book. I read it also last summer and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I got like last summer I feel like I kind of really knocked it out of the park with some of the books that I read. This is about an old woman, very old. She's like 92. She's starting to lose her hearing and one of her good friends gives her a hearing trumpet so she can hear things a little bit better and hopefully like maybe like be able to interact with her family a little bit more than she had been since she kind of like started losing her hearing. And what is the first thing she hears with this new hearing trumpet? Her family's trying to send her away because they're saying she has dementia. A 92-year-old having dementia does feel like pretty plausible. It does feel pretty plausible, but I don't know, does she? Are all of these crazy fantastical things actually happening, or is it just, her warped sense of reality at this point? We don't really know. Anyway, she gets sent to this nursing home. It is very fantastical looking. It's just like I think like all of the houses are like look like cakes or something like that. She meets all of the really like zany characters who are also in this nursing home, like all of these other like kind of zany older women, and discovers that there's kind of like a I don't want to say a cult going on, but there's a lot of things that have to do with the occult going on. So yeah, she gets involved with all of this stuff. Crazy things start occurring. The old gods show up. The apocalypse starts. Magic happens. Crazy fantastical things happen and you just really have to read it from there. This book, I will say, I think it was written in the early 70s. Not every part aged like there's loud bicycles, motorcycles, whatever. Not every single part of this aged like super well, but it's not like it's worth reading in my opinion, and it's just one of those books where like you get about halfway through and then every single page after that you're like, what? What? I feel like I spent a lot of time when I was reading this book like going back and like reading what I just read just to make sure that like I'd actually read that. But yeah, this is one that you just kind of have to experience. Like, no summary is ever going to be able to like really do it for you. So that is The Hearing Trumpet by Leonora Carrington. Last of like my main recommendations is Twice Lost by Phyllis Paul. This is another more recent read for me. I also picked this up in the spring, I think shortly after I read The Feast. I've been really getting into these McNally editions. They do a similar thing to NYRB where I feel like they try to pluck some older books from either obscurity or semi obscurity and reprint them and put them back into the literary conversation. Generally, they focus on books that were maybe underappreciated in their time or have like really fallen out of the like collective consciousness. So I found some really cool books that way, and I'm gonna definitely continue to read through the stuff that they've published. Anyway, what's this about? Twice Lost. Okay, so there's these two girls, Christine and Vivian. Christine's like a teenager, I think she's around 17, and Vivian is quite a bit younger. She is like 7 or 8, let's say. So they're coming back from this party. They like live in the same like small town. They're at this party together, and Christine kind of takes a little bit of pity on Vivian. Everyone knows that Vivian's like not looked after super well at home. She's kind of scraggly and people kind of find her like needy and annoying. But Christine wants her to get home safe, so she takes it upon herself to like escort her home. She gets her down to like the end of like the walkway that leads up to her house, and she's like, "Okay, good enough, job done, goodbye, peace out," and she goes home. She was the last person to see Vivian alive. Oh no. Or see her in general. No one knows where Vivian's gone. She has disappeared. She, like, I guess people kind of assume that she's probably dead, but that is never confirmed. Like, no body is ever found. No, like, suspect of any sort of like murder or kidnapping is ever found. And Christine kind of carries this guilt with her throughout the rest of her life. So we fast forward like a number of years. I want to say like 12 or 13 years or so. Christine has gotten married to like another like man who like lives in the town. She was quite young and he was quite old, but like whatever. That's like not relevant to like the main plot. Or kind of is, but whatever. So Christine is still in the town. She's still like a big part of like the kind of like social circle that she was kind of like orbiting around like when Vivian went missing. And then she's also like partially living in London now. So this young woman, shows up to her place in London, is like, "Hey, I'm Vivian. Do you remember me?" And Christine's like, "Oh my god." Nobody else believes her. But Christine, who has carried this guilt and really wants this girl to be alive, like completely believes her. And she gives like this whole fantastical story as to like where she's been and like how she got there and like what has happened in the time that has elapsed. Everyone's super skeptical. Christine again believes at first. I think she kind of wavers in her believing a little bit. Yeah, the rest of the book is just kind of like all of these characters interacting, and I think you as the reader kind of trying to find out if this girl is legit or not. And it's very interesting. It's very interesting. It was very good, very gripping in my opinion. But yeah, that is Twice Lost by Phyllis Paul. Okay, last I have like a bonus book. It does not fit in with the vibes of like any of the previous books, but it could be like a super fun like beach read, pool read, like whatever. So I wanted to include it. I actually don't have my copy with me. It might be at my parents' house or something. I'm not really sure, but it's not here. I have the sequel to it though. I'm gonna hold up and I can like maybe put the image on the screen. But the book that I'm recommending, again, this is the sequel to, is Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Q Sutanto. As you can tell, this is a much more like fun, fluffy, like whatever. Anyway, what's it about? It's about this woman, Madeline, who she explains that like her parents were like aiming for Madeline, but they didn't speak English super well when they named her, so Madeline. And it's funny because she has to meddle in things in the book. Haha, play on words, lol. Anyway, so Madeline and her family, her mom and her aunts, they run this like wedding business where they like plan and execute weddings, and everyone has kind of like some different jobs like in this like wedding like business that they all run together. Anyway, so they have a super big and important wedding coming up. Exciting. A couple days before, Madeline goes on a date with this guy, and on the way home, he tries to get a little too handsy with her, and she's not about to let that happen. So she pulls out her handy dandy taser. Oops, he has a heart condition. He's dead now. Not great. So she pulls up to her family home. Her mom and her aunts are all there, and she's like, "Hey, remember that guy? I killed him. Oops, I didn't mean to." So now they all have to deal with hiding this body while simultaneously prepping for and executing this like huge wedding that they had going on. It's very funny, it's very zany, but I mean it has a little like morbid element of like, trying to hide a body. I thought it was very fun, cool, fun family vibe. There is a sequel. This one was definitely a lot more, I think, like kind of character focused. So if you liked reading about this family, then you would probably like the sequel. But I don't know. I think the vibes we're going for are more better encapsulated in the first book, so that's what I'm recommending. There is, I think, a third book that came out. I have not read yet. I would like to get around to that eventually. But yeah, all my recommendations that I have for today. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and yeah, maybe consider subscribing if you liked this. I don't know. I don't run your life, but like something you could do. Yeah. Okay. Goodbye.